right, hello. We are going to tell you a story about the cultural change and how we build products and services at Elisa. But of course, first we have to introduce ourselves. Some of you know me already, but my name is Mikko Häkkinen. I'm a design system lead at Elisa, which is, as well, actually announced, that biggest telecom operator in Finland. We have roughly 2.3 million customers. It's roughly half of Finnish population. And which is also interesting fact is that actually 15% of Elisa's revenue comes outside the traditional telecom business, which is probably one of the highest in the world.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Rami Ertimo. I'm a full stack designer working at Intergalactico. And Intergalactico is actually a newly born design studio of Nordcloud. And those of you who actually know SC5, so Intergalactico is the UX developers and designers, so the design team of the SC5. For the past 5 years, we've been helping companies with their design system kind of activities. And for the past 3 years, we've been helping Elisa. So, a disclaimer to begin with. So each design system is different, and there are no universal truths, as you have already heard before, to make the change happen. And here you will see some of the paths we have taken. Some of them may be for you, some of them may be not, but take everything with a grain of salt. So this is our story.
Yeah, some of you probably recognize this picture, or at least what it represents. Our story starts about 2014, and that time our teams did a lot of repeatable design and implementation work. And actually this picture kind of sums that quite well. For example, here is 8 different kind of flows of buying. And there is no kind of good reason why they all are so different. And all of these represent more or less time, energy, and money. And that's all away from the actual solving the customer problems. And that's a problem. Not to mention that at that time, not all our services were even responsive. And there's a lot of inconsistencies between different products and services. And as you may know, and probably you knew, this leads bad user experience, and in the end, that will show in a bottom line, so in sales. And all because our culture did not support mindset of sharing. So, we needed to break this culture of isolation. We had a lot of different kind of teams, and they were like small islands, and there was no bridges between them. There was no collaboration, sharing, or talking between them, at least enough. And we needed to build possible service to our customers, and this was actually preventing not it to happen. But how to do this kind of change? How to change this scale of things in a big company, which is actually 135 years old? There's a lot of established products and services, and they are very strong and autonomous teams. So how to change all this? So, when you face this kind of problem, you have to start to think that, do I recognize changes, bigger or smaller, in a company which I actually can use for this? And for example, if your design system is not there yet, there is no commitment or there is no buy-in yet, so how to go there? How to go those isolated teams to actually make the action, make the change? Well, we were lucky. We got the opportunity, which was basically brand renewal, 2014. We get about 100 pages document about how the brand should, implement it in different places. Stores, PowerPoint presentations, And guess what? There was just a few pages about our web presence. And we had just 2 months' time. So what we could do? What should we freak out? No. Actually, we saw that as an opportunity. Opportunity to actually change everything at once, those independent, strong teams. Because we're in a hurry and this kind of change comes above, there is nobody saying us, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. Yeah, sorry. So, it was all about the communication. We started weekly meetings. We got the designers and developers in the same place every week, discuss about how we do this, what to do next, and we sync. And it wasn't just, one team, designers and developers who were talking, but they were actually from all the teams. And suddenly, we actually started to change the culture. We started to share. Like this. We also changed the tools at the same time. For example, Photoshop in the time wasn't really built for the sharing. And we started out and tested Sketch, for example. It wasn't perfect that time, but it actually served the purpose. It helps us to share. So it's not just a, way of doing things, it's also about the tools. They all should support this sharing. And we were able to kind of start a collaboration culture between teams.
Yeah, so the brand renewal was a good start, and the seed was planted for the cultural change to work together. But actually, the brand renewal was not covering all of the products, and basically, we were using Sketch already back, but we didn't have any common styling from the technical perspective. And we needed to actually take it further. We needed more tools. So Sketch was there, but we actually needed to provide a pattern library, an easy way for the teams to gain access to the markup and the styles. And we actually got 2 powerful influencers and enablers with the will and trust that this would be a good thing. They luckily had also a couple of euros in their pocket to create a small tiger team, that being 1 front-end developer, 1 UX developer, and then a part-time designer to actually start making the change. To actually make the change, we need to create processes, lightweight, to support the teams so that they would be able to collaborate and bring their stuff to the system. And we also needed to enable rapid iterations because we knew that there would be a lot of releases. In addition to that, that team needed to start selling the technical solution to the teams. And for that one, we created a very simple metric, which was basically tens of different product teams there at Elisa. So we just needed to go there and try to find the teams that could actually take this into use. So we split it into 3, basically being that you are interested in it, you are actually using the pattern library, and you are actively collaborating on the pattern library. And then just trying to make the penetration to all of the possible teams. We did interviews with a lot of different teams and then made the prioritization list basically based on their ability to take this kind of approach into use, or then actually how much benefit they would get from this kind of approach. And we created those must-win battles. Based on the interviews, we kind of realized that the teams were pretty different. They have different technologies into use, like Nathan was saying, and they had established roadmaps and backlogs, which was kind of preventing them, or an excuse to say no. And the teams were really autonomous. And actually, about that, we created this kind of saying, which we call the "we are special" syndrome. But we still wanted to keep that kind of autonomous approach because it was very deep in the culture of Elisa. So how do you when you're not able to push, you actually need to create a pull. So basically we needed to create change the mindset. So if you think about these lovely cactuses that Mikko chose to our background image, and you can kind of think about that, hey, there is a red one and there is a green one, and kind of concentrate on that one, and kind of not like think about it. If you take the colors out, they are plants, and are actually closer together, they are cactuses. I mean, we wanted to bring that kind of attitude to the teams. So we wanted to actually bring the attitude of what we share. And of course, not take out the VR special part, but kind of have a balance for the teams to actually make an effort. We need to also create a different kind of arguments for different kind of teams, and create new sales pitches for actually the teams to get interested. At the same time, the team was improving the pattern library itself, removing any kind of obstacles, technical or other, that was actually preventing of the teams to take it into use. And at the same time, we already had active products and active teams bringing more patterns to the pattern library, bringing more variations to the existing patterns in a way that the other teams could then utilize those. We were also doing different kind of marketing activities, so giving presentations to audiences, maybe not as big as this one, but anyways, like bigger than individual teams. And we were all the time looking for new key influencers to get some more mind share. So with correctly timing, so finding from the teams, like a good time to attack. Some teams that was easier, some of the teams it was more difficult, but good places to start were like bigger UI reworks to some part of the product, or a brand renewal of a sub-product, or then a technological update to the whole product itself. With hard work and stamina, and Noel was already talking about Sisu, so I want to emphasize that one. So I think it really took this kind of Sisu attitude over time to win the product by product, and actually win the must-win battles. To get to the situation that we actually now don't need to prove ourselves anymore. We have the momentum going inside the company, and I think now it's time to turn the next page.
Yeah. So now we have actually established pattern library, which actually is public, could be found on stylebook.elisa.fi, so you can check it out if you want to. And even though it's mostly about the pattern library, we talk about all the time the design system. And I know that some has argued that if you have just pattern library, it's not a design system at all. So why it's alone, it's not a design system. So why you call it a design system? Well, there's a good reason for that. Because if you are talking just a pattern library all the time, and you are planning to do also other stuff above it, you have to sell the idea of the design system later. But if you know, and if you have a vision to do something else than a pattern library, you should actually talk about all the time design system. Because that way people get kind of already that mindset that this is more. This is not just a pattern library. And they also start think over it and kind of filter on. So, as I said, it's established. We have already like more than 200 releases behind us, and all our private web services teams are using it, and they are actually also contributing. And what is also cool, that we have actually created lasting change of culture of sharing. So teams are actually talking to each other, and we don't need to be there anymore and kind of remind them all the time about it. But of course, you should be always on teams. And the majority has grown a lot. So, shortly about the lessons learned through these years, what we have done. Yeah. So, kill your darlings. This means that if you have any tools, patterns, components, any part of your design systems that is not in use anymore, or there is no kind of buy-in, kill it. Don't keep it there, because it's a loss of money, time, and resources, and also in the bad situations, if you, for example, like what happened to us when we did to brand renewal, we created first pattern library, but it was more or less for the third parties who needed to also kind of sync with us. And the problem was that, for example, we didn't kind of explain all the CSS and HTML elements in there. And there was no buy-in for the designers. They didn't want to use it. And because there was no buy-in, it kind of fade away. And it's okay. It's okay if it's fade away, if you just kind of kill it. No problem.
Second lesson, basically it's about teams and roles and about the sales pitch that you choose. So you could insert your own sales pitch here. So of course you can find a lot from the internet and from the bloggers and the nice speakers today. But I have here an example slide. It's maybe 1.5 years old. We were talking live with pattern library, so I think in the sense of this conference, it's better to change it to live with the design systems. But basically, you have some kind of problem setup, and then you have some kind of value propositions or sales pitches. But actually, this slide is not to the product owners or the businesses that these arguments here actually try to focus on. So if you think about saving up to 25% in your overall front-end development costs, there could be a developer inside this house, me included, saying like, so, I mean, yeah, but what's in it for me? So you really need to find those sales pitches for the different teams and different roles especially that you focus on. So if you write them the same problem setup but different kind of arguments, then it starts to make sense.
And then, kind of very important part is that be with the people. Because when you're building a design systems, it's about the people you are building it, it's about the teams you are building it. You have to support, teach, and sell the idea to them. You have to be present. And you have to do that constantly, because if you are not there, usually teams are very busy. They have no kind of time for this. So you have to kind of make sure that there is a buy-in for the stuff you are doing. And this is hard work. I mean, you have to go all those teams. We have like 10 of them, more actually. So you have to run more or less a lot of the time. So go to people today and tomorrow.
Next up, it's all about regression, especially in the pattern library context. So most probably if your pattern library is living, you will have a lot of releases, short release cycles. So you really need to pay attention to the automation and to the quality. And the quality is of utmost importance, because if there is no trust in your pattern library's quality, then people tend to fade away, choose something else. I have one example about visual regression testing. So here is, for instance, a component from the pattern library, which is the Elisa footer. And it's kind of not happened to the footer, but it's a real case example where an icon changed or some padding changed. And this can be easily overlooked. When I'm showing the images like this to you, you can maybe distinguish the differences. But if you see the footer just on your page without any reference, it's really hard to actually get the difference. But when you actually have an automated tool with the visual regression testing that checks each of the components and takes a screenshot from the previous release and compares it to the next one and actually breaks the build while doing so, you start to be in much more safer place.
So, evolution, not revolution. I mean, it's nothing new in work together or about pattern libraries or design systems. They're just formal way to do stuff. But what you need to do, you have to understand the needs of the teams and people in them. Then you can actually do the change. You have to find a common ground. And if there is not none, you have to actually create that. And that kind of creation comes through the understanding of needs and people in your organization and the teams. And this way, teams could actually adapt to change. It's the only way what we have learned so far. Of course, this will take time. I mean, we have building our own system 4 years? Yeah, 4 years. And I mean, things will change. Things will evolve, just like your pattern library or your design system or design principles. And also, teams will evolve, and a company will evolve. So don't stick to your tools and practices, but change them if they're needed. That's evolution.
To those words, we thank you.
All right.